If you follow me on Instagram, you'll know that I've bought 2 of these fairly recently. And I love these old tools, and especially English made old tools. And I've got a 110 and a 240 volt single phase, and they are not in the best of condition. So I'm going to call a light restoration. I'm going to have one standalone, maybe upright, and make a table for it, get that laser cut designed up and made, and then I'm going to have one standalone for when I need to use it as an actual floor belt sander. So all I'm going to do today is I'm going to change over the cable, because it's got that sort of rotting rubber cable. It's done pretty well over the years. I don't know how old that's going to be. It's not that old. Need to replace all of this, and I'm not going to restore it. I'm not going to sit here and paint it, etc. It's a using tool. Yes, it's old and vintage and quite collectible, but this was built to be used, so that's what it's going to be done. I'm just going to go around, service it. I'll change the wipers. I'll see if I can straighten this out. I might even change that. I've got some stainless somewhere. Blow it off with the airline, get this working well, because the adjuster's not that great. And yeah, and then this one's in a lot better condition than that one. I think this is an earlier one. It seems to be a lot more sort of higher quality if you compare the switches and the handles, and this one seems to be more beefier, but it hasn't been used as much, or it's been taken care of more. But they both work. This one's very noisy, so I'm going to take off the guarding here and see what condition we're in and if anything needs changing. As usual, we're going to have a voiceover throughout the video, and we're going to go through a brief history. I'm not going to do like we did on the record, because I feel there's not a great amount of interesting history with Wolf. They had a few factory moves, they had a bit of a name changed, but it's not as long and quite as interesting, I feel, as it is with the Record Vice video that I've done, but it will be a series of videos that I want to start, and for me personally, it's the history that I enjoy with tools as much as it is the design and the purpose that they were originally intended for. Like most of the tools I own, there's not a lot of French decimals and points in this in this bit of equipment, so we are whipping out the Imperial Allen key sets on here, and I think from memory it's a 5/32 size that you will need. If you are thinking about getting into the older restorations of either British or American restoration builds, then you're going to have to invest in well, more than likely you would have to invest in different sizes, awkward sizes. That's probably not as available or easy as it was 50, 60, 70 years ago, so it's just something to bear in mind. The story begins in 1900, and the company was S. Wolf & Co. and was based in London, of Hanger Lane, District W1, here in England. If you're watching this, then you might be a fan of AVE's channel, and this has got a proper switch in here, and as you can see, someone's been in here before, probably used a key to try and change the screw heads. Everything's rounded, and that's just one of the challenges you have when you buy a used machine, so just got to get on with it really. But it does work, everything is okay. It's just really dirty, and it's probably not been looked after that well. The motor brush covers, again, not great, but could be worse. I'm going to take off the belt cover on the side, and to do that I'm going to use a little wire brush again. I'll see if I can get these replaced. Shouldn't be too much of an issue, but I like it to be as original as possible. I'm just going to use a wire brush to try and clean up the slots, because at the minute they're just covered in not good stuff. So we've done our first off. We've started our investigation. We've taken off the covers that matter. We're going to be doing the bushings later, but I'm using an old a lollipop stick and these Wonder Wipes just to get as much of the original grease out as possible. Again, wearing gloves, and after we've done that, and we're going to take all the gears out, clean everything up, we'll then rewire onto the switch, make sure everything is earthed correctly and is nice and safe for future operation. So we've taken off the cover, we've got out one of the gears, and we now want to take out this on here. So you've got a nut on this side and a nut on that side. And what we want to do is remove this, check the bearing, re-grease everything, and start reassembling. The problem that you've got is on here you can't get in there, and I don't want to put any sort of linear pressure on here to try and pry out the gears, because you run the risk of damaging this. This is only quite a soft material, and you run the risk of damaging the gears. So what we're going to do is use one of these, which I believe it's just called a strap clamp, and you put it on here like so, and you're not going to be damaging everything. And about slipping. If you can see that, try not to drop it. That'll be quite a short video. So it is a captive knot. So I don't know if that means it's right-handed. Can't see. I think that's right-handed thread, and that's left-handed, which I think would make sense. There you go. If it feels really tight, it's probably right-handed. So now we should be able, there we go. We'll drop the gear, there's the drive, there's the gear. Just like that. Taking it all apart, I'm just going to inspect these, and looking at the shaft, there's no, looks pretty good. The gears, none of the teeth are particularly damaged. They're not worn. Need to clean that up to give it a proper look, see. But all in all, the rubber's in good condition. The shaft looks okay. And no bearings, there are bushings, which is good. I like a bushing. less chance for ingress of sawdust, I think, to get in there. That's probably the reason. I don't think it would have been a manufacturing reason. Cost. Different times. You can see the pipe here. It's where it's meant to extract from. Yeah, that's been blocked for some years, that has. Although tools were better made back then, doesn't mean people had better mentalities looking after the tool. The problem with this is if you're working in a van or something like that and you left this and there was a, you know, a hot part that you got in there, this would cinder. Could be on, you know, it's a fire hazard really. And you finish 5 o'clock, you put it in your van, you go home, have your tea, and then your van's on fire and you wonder why. But that pipe needs coming off, maybe replacing. Just taking off the cap here, and as we thought, oh yeah. Just going to use the vacuum. I'll try and get as much of that out as I can. I don't really want to use an airline. Yeah, what have I got? Look, it's flexible. Okay, whilst I'm waffling on in the video, let's get back to the story. So, in 1949, the S. Wolf & Co. had a name changed to Wolf Tools Limited, or Wolf Electric Tools. Little bit unclear, all the history isn't quite there, and I've trawled through lots and lots of literature and lots of websites, and there was wars in between. Well, there was 2 world wars between 1900 and 1949. So I've found details on the Wolf Tools Limited being in combination with Solex carburetors that were used on aeroplanes, both non-military and military aircraft. I've seen spark plug manufacturers, so the history on that side I'm not too sure on. Probably the reason why there was a name change in 1949, in the same year Wolf released their first entry into the market of their corded, handhold, DIY pistol drill. The American firm Black & Decker had yet to establish itself here in the UK, which is probably why they were so successful. Did you know that the first electric drill was actually credited to Arthur James Arnott and William Blanche Brain of Melbourne in Australia? And then a few years later down the line, in 1917, the very well-known brothers of Wilhelm and Karl Fein of Stuttgart in Germany then switched to the first trigger switch pistol type portable electric drill, which was then patented by Black & Decker. Clean the seal up, and it's okay. It's not the best, but it's going to be fine. We'll get another couple of years out of that. All I'm going to do is I'm going to put some airline oil on it, which is good for the O-rings, etc. seals. So it's a silicone based, so just gives it a little bit more life. And just rub that in there and stick it back on. The earlier Wolf drills were called the Cub and was completely made out of metal castings. The later versions, the Cub Master, then had a combination of casted bodies and Bakelite bodies, and boasted that no earthing was required. With the Cub being a hit, allowed the company to expand and start manufacturing different products such as the belt sander you see today, table saws, bench drills, sanders and bench sanders. Looking through the list of what they actually manufactured over years, it is amazing what they actually made in-house in one factory. We see evidence of from soldering irons to valve seat grinders to very, very specialized products. An example of which they were very popular in the early 50s and 60s in the Dutch state railways, which used many Wolf drills and were generator driven and used on site to drill holes in oak sleepers. So they really did become an international company at this point. We're now starting to climb the hill. So we've stripped everything back down again, we've cleaned everything up, we've gotten rid of the old earwax / grease, and we're going to be using a bit of a spindle lube on the spindle itself and greasing the gears and resetting the height to mesh correctly. See, this is why I make YouTube videos. So when I'm rotating the shaft round and inspecting the meshing of the gears, there's a height difference, and this is your adjustment here. There's no lateral adjustment. So you want the gears to be able to mesh as best as they can and feel pretty good. But we've got a height difference from here. So there's a bearing underneath, and the spline of this shaft isn't engaged at the top like the other ones are, which set off alarm bells, and the only reason why that is because I put the washing on the wrong way round. You donut. So just take this back out again, take the washing out from underneath. I've just gone back and checked my video, and there should be a washer on the top and a washer underneath, which is basics, but hey ho, just got to look at things and take a step back sometimes. So let's get that off, take this back on, properly grease everything up, and crack on. Well, it's easily done. I'm only human. So we now get on to dating this particular tool and your Wolf electric tools if you have them. I've got a number of different. I've got a original gold coloured cub, and in the late 60s this green finish was changed to a silver grey and red, with ivory and red for the DIY products, and in the 1970s is when the ever famous the aqua blue became a very popular colour in England, and Black & Decker UK also chose this along with its orange, and then Wolf changed its colours to grey and aqua, and then later ivory and aqua for their entire product line. And then we'll get on to the final history of Wolf Great Britain. Until then, we are going to set up the gear meshing. It's a little bit fiddly to do this, but if you've got one of these and you're following along with this video, it's really easy. Don't over tighten it. You don't have to go mad with the grease, although watching the footage a bit later on does look like I have gone a bit nuts here. I'm using this this vintage E-Knots grease gun. Works really well, but you're going to get grease everywhere and all over your lovely prized snap-on ratchet. So just bear that in mind, keep the gloves on and you'll be fine. Re-grease, clean everything up, and everything is meshing pretty good. It looks a bit like there's a bit too much grease on there, but oh yeah, that sounds amazing. It's like cooking pasta. So just need to put the cover on and sort out this wiring. Nice. So I was putting this on and noticed that it's really badly sort of bent and out of shape. So I'm just going to plunge them back into shape, and it should seal a little bit better. That's probably why there's quite a lot of ingress of dirt in the top. So I'm just going to flatten these back out. Nothing fancy. I'm not getting straight edges out, etc. I just want it to have the best seal as possible. And I'm going to just hit it on the anvil. My anvil is definitely not flat, but it's better than nothing. And yes, please ignore the ridiculous chain around the bottom of the anvil there. But I need to get some more for it to actually work. But check out that video when it's up. It'll be coming out in the next week or so, and should be pretty good. And it's me just starting to get into blacksmithing, so really enjoyed it. And the tongs that you saw in the background was my first project. I didn't record it because, well, you know, it was my first project. So we've had Mr. Builder in, and every screw on this has been rounded or used a key or a butter knife or I don't know what, but that, if you're going to restore something or work on something, use the right size screwdriver. It's just not difficult, and it's a flathead as well. Yeah, it's a flathead. Like how do you do that? I get that wrong. So we're taking it off. We're going to take out the switch assembly and put some new wiring on there. So let's get a closer look at that. Well, I hope you can see that a bit better now. But there's your earth. There's your neutral. And then there's your live. Yeah, the bad thing is I plugged this in before I started this video, just to see if it was working. And it's aluminium, and amazingly it worked fine. Well, it was rattly and it was whining a bit from the gear set, but yeah, I should not have plugged that in. Let's get rid of this. Let's clean up the crap that somebody else has done, and make a proper job of it. Of all the videos I've watched, they never really show you, the cable layout. So this is a very, very quick clip of what goes where and what does what, because if for whatever reason I have to leave the workshop and go away somewhere or whatever and come back to the job and I've taken this all apart, then that's not a good thing, and you have to figure out and get the multimeter out. But anyway, these are your switch wires. So you've got this one at the top, this one at the bottom, like so. I don't really see the point in taking those across. I'm just going to clean those up. Clean up the switch, and look at this. You don't see that very often, do you? Wow. Proper switch. And I don't know if I'm going to be better off putting genuine crimps on here or doing what they've done. I prefer the crimps, but it's a bit tight in here, so I'm not sure if we'll be able to bend these across and then manage to get that in. There's your earth truss and the screws. Quite clearly got E on there, and then link this back through, put something on here. I would prefer to make a soldered joint. I think I'm going to make a soldered loop on those. Yeah. I decided to go for the soldered loops, which is like the crimps. It just hasn't got the shroud around the collar to be seated on top. And I think a soldered tinned connection is stronger than a bent out of shape crimp anyway. So I hope this is right. It might be a bit controversial, but it works for this. And probably in 1952, roughly when this was made, there probably wasn't that many plastic connections available. So the switch is big enough, it's sealed enough, it's going to be safe, it's going to be secure, it's going to be fine. How this is designed as well, the earth lead, if the cable was ever be pulled out, the earth lead is designed to be disconnected and ripped off its socket first, thus breaking the circuit. So all I'm using here is a pin punch in the vise, and wrap the cable loop around it to then solder, flux and solder rings on there, able for the screws to go through and connect it onto the switch, like so. So now going to reconnect everything, making sure that the previous wires, we're going to match everything up to how it was previously. And now let's get back to the final stages of Wolf's history. So in the early 1980s, Wolf was purchased by Kango Tools a bit further up in Peterborough. Kango had red and black as their colours, and Wolf changed into this pattern later on into that. A few years down the line, the modules gradually merged into Kango products and saw a complete disappearance of the Wolf brand name in the sort of mid-80s. By 1986, 1987, the company was then brought out by Atlas Copco, and then after that, a few years after that, AEG brought out, which was a German company, and then Milwaukee Tools. Both of them were then sold again a few years ago to a Chinese firm in Hong Kong, because Atlas wishes was returned to its core business of mining tools and air-driven equipment, etc., etc. And I think now Kango is on its own, but for more than 20 years they've been an independent company. And there is sort of life in the Wolf name, but it was brought out and made under license by an Indian firm, which is the yellow colours, and similarities between the British-made Wolf and the Indian company is chalk and cheese, as we say here in England. Very, very different. Quality is shocking, and it's now a budget brand of consumer DIY type tools. So although the name is the same, the product is definitely very, very different as of today. So it's a shame, but such is life. But at least now we've got the plug wired up. So we're nearly ready to go. As I say, we've got the short cable on here because I want it to be on one of the next projects, which is going to be a machine rack, a big, it's going to be called the anchor rack, and that is anchor, nothing else that sounds similar to that. And I want all my machines to be on one sort of rotatable rack, so everything's accessible and has access to power on there. Okay, the moment of truth. And we're hot. Not bad. Really pleased that we managed to get this back to a usable and safe working condition, and you can still actually get the belts really easily. They're a 3x18-inch belt, and you can get it from Screwfix or anywhere like that really. The modern equivalent of something like the Makita. They're all sticking with the same. So future plans with this is with the switch that I've got on there is maybe use the a different button and then make a platform, or a is it a plenum? I'm not sure if it's a plenum. I think that's something that you have in your cars for drainage. But to make it freestanding like this and be able to use it as a standalone belt sander, just an option. But it'll be nice to have that and then use the other one as an actual belt sander, as mentioned earlier. But that's going to be a wrap for us tonight, guys, and as always, thank you so much for watching, and be sure to hit that subscribe and check out my Instagram for behind the scenes and upcoming videos. Thanks, guys.